Okay, we're together, we're doing this, and today we're talking about where do babies come from, talking to your kids about it at any age. So, we thought what might be helpful is some people want the scripts written out where they can screenshot it, and we've provided that. And then some people like to hear how Natasha says it. I think that's sort of important. Um, I
Okay.
mean, I guess like we all say it in our own way. Me with my nervous voice, and
Sorry.
but it's nice when we hear your calming, soothing way of saying it. So, for anybody who's interested in listening to how it's best said, this is the podcast for you. So, let's start with ages 3 to 4.
So at this point, kids are always going to be curious, right? They're asking why to everything. And I think parents often get stumped with that and feel the need to answer everything. So my first response is always, whenever you're stumped, don't feel the need to answer everything. You can always say, that's a really good question. I'm going to think about it. And during the why phase, I personally like to add, I wonder. Don't feel the need to explain or over explain things because when you intellectualize something too much for a young child, it can often cause unnecessary anxiety. So when they inevitably ask, where do babies come from? I always like to pause and wait to see what they say. Where do you think babies come from? Because usually they have the best answers, I find, and they're quite entertaining, and I always write them down. So you can always respond with, that's right, or that's not quite right. And how I describe it is babies form when a tiny sperm from the daddy and a tiny egg from the mommy come together and make a baby. And it's something very special. Obviously, this may differ depending on your family makeup. So, most children at this age will simply nod and move on. If they ask, how do they come together? Try to explain things in visual pictures for kids. Explain it like it's two puzzle pieces coming together or two Lego pieces coming together. They just fit just right. And then you can even use your hands to demonstrate that.
Okay, so now we're moving on to age 5 and 6. Explain that age a little bit.
They start to get more into the how questions, but you want to be mindful not to overwhelm them. So you can bring it up, especially if they don't bring it up. I think, remember, this is a progressive conversation. This is not something that you just talk about once. Remember how I told you that a sperm from a daddy and an egg from the mommy come together? Well, the sperm travels through a little tunnel called the vaginal canal to meet the egg. And if they ask, well, how does it get there? That's a really good question. It's something that happens between grown-ups when they love each other and their bodies work together to make a baby. It's not something that kids do. It's something for adults when they're ready to be parents. And again, keep it very visual in terms of using analogies, puzzle pieces, Legos, those still fit with this age.
Oh, great. Okay, 7 to 8 age. What are we dealing with?
At this age, you're going to give them a little bit more detail when it comes to anatomy. And remember, you always want to use proper medical terminology because studies show that when you use proper medical terminology, a child is less likely to be molested. And I know people think that'll never happen to my child, and God forbid they don't. It is more common than people think. You remember how the sperm from the daddy and the egg from the mommy come together. Well, the sperm is made and stored in the testes, which are a soft sac that is next to the penis. And when the body is ready, the sperm travels through a little tube called the vas deferens and out through the penis and into the vaginal canal. And from there, the sperm swim through to the uterus toward the egg in a tube called the fallopian tube. And that's where they meet. And so you can, again, use your hands as like a visual, cupping your hands together, showing one hand traveling towards the other, and linking the fingers together like puzzle pieces for them to visualize. If your child was conceived with medical assistance, you can add, sometimes doctors help the sperm and egg meet in a tiny dish called a petri dish. And when they come together, they form an embryo. And then the doctor will place the embryo gently into the woman's uterus where it can grow into a baby.
It's making me think of things that I didn't say when my child was 7 or 8. Like, can you talk a little bit about going backwards or not?
I don't think you need to feel that you didn't do it correctly, there's always room to go from there, right? Your child's 9. Bring up the conversation. You never really talked about where babies come from. And so I wanted to let you know that. And the important thing is to make sure your child feels comfortable coming to you, because the problem is they go turn towards their friends, or if they have access to an iPad, it's a whole nother conversation, but they will get that information. And you'd be surprised how many kids actually Google things and they don't know which websites are real or truthful. And so you have to be mindful of that and making sure your child comes to you, letting them know whenever you have questions, come to me. Kids often don't go to parents because they either shy away from it, saying, oh, you're too young, I don't want to talk to you about it, or the parent themselves are too anxious and feel like they don't know how to teach the child about it. But again, letting them know to come to you is the most important part, because they will come to you in later stages in life.
Yes, I love that. Okay, we're at 9 and 10.
Okay. So this is where you will start to bridge the gap to puberty and menstruation, because this is where kids start going through puberty. And you can bring it up too with your kids. Some parents have told me like they haven't brought it up. The child themselves hasn't brought it up to the parent. But I find at this age, it is important to try and bring that up. So something like, now that you're getting older, your body will start to change. And this is when it's good to understand how everything works and fits together. Every month, a woman's body makes an egg and prepares a special soft lining inside her uterus. And that is called the menstrual cycle. If a sperm meets the egg, a baby can start to grow there. And if not, then the body releases the lining, and that's what causes a period. And what I like to do is pause and let them think about what you just said. And remember to go slowly and don't go too fast over it. And let them ask questions. And typically they'll ask the questions I find girls will ask, does it hurt? Because it's happening to them. And I'll explain, it doesn't hurt, but sometimes right before or during your period, your body will hold on to a little bit of extra water. And it's kind of like how the earth soaks up rain before new things start to grow. Your belly might feel a little bit puffy or tight, and that's called bloating. But it shouldn't hurt. And you want to let them know that if it ever does hurt, to come to you, because that might be problematic and indicative of something else going on. And oftentimes I find the kids will say, well, does it happen to boys? That's not fair. A lot of that phrasing of that's not fair will come up during this age 9 to 10.
Oh, we know.
Phase. And so you can just acknowledge that and say, you're right. You know, boys and girls go through different things, but there's things that your body can go through. Given that you have a period, you are able to grow a baby inside of you. For me, it was very magical if you were able to do it. Obviously, it's different if there was a surrogate involved, but explaining the magic behind that and how special that is. And then also the reason to explain this, not just to girls, but to boys themselves, because their classmates will be going through a period and they might notice girls becoming more emotional or sensitive, and boys themselves also will be that way as well. And so when you explain it to the boys, they can be more mindful of what's going on with their classmates. And something I always tell my son is, if you ever see a girl getting her period, it can be quite embarrassing. And so letting the teacher know, so that way they can make sure to approach the student. And then the other important thing is never making fun. And I really drive that home with my son, and to make sure he knows that. And if he ever sees other kids making fun of someone who had gotten their period and they have a blood stain, to stop it right then and there.
I love that.
Now, at this age, they may ask the question, how does the penis go into the vaginal canal? Again, medical terminology. You can gently say, when two people love each other and both agree and give permission, then the man can place his penis inside the woman's vagina. The sperm then travels through the uterus and may meet the egg. And it's something that happens between two consenting adults who are ready and have agreed to share that closeness. And the most important part is love, respect, and permission. And so that's where I like to explain consent.
I have a question. If they don't ask that question, do you not dive into that part?
I don't think you necessarily have to at this age, at like 9. But typically by 10 and 5th grade, 6th grade, I would want to do that just because there are so many kids that do have access to the internet and the world and online pornography. More and more kids are being exposed to online pornography under the age of 13 than ever before. And it's very different from, seeing a Playboy versus online pornography. So I'd rather bring it up first. Now, you can adjust it also when two people are married or when two people are in love based on family values and your makeup.
If you have a question about this, please DM the podcast. If you're looking for scripts for older children, past 10, 11, 12, certainly DM us and Natasha will work on those and send those.
Since I only got up to this age when I was tired of
I
writing.
don't know, this is great for me. Oh, I have one last question that I wanted to ask. Can you read some of these scripts off your phone if you don't feel comfortable that you're going to say it correctly? Or is that weird?
I don't mind the reading. My part that concerns me is that if you're not comfortable, your child will see through it. So when you're not comfortable with explaining this, your child won't feel comfortable coming to you.
Yeah.
And that's the concern I have. So I have no problem with you reading it just to make sure that you're saying it accurately. And you can say I'm reading this to make sure I'm explaining it to you correctly, but own it first and make sure you check in with yourself first to
regulate your emotions.
Yeah.
Got it. Great advice. Thank you.
Emily's like, wait, I have to check in with myself.
Always.
This podcast does not constitute medical advice or recommendation. Please consult your doctor.